So hi, my name is Sharon Coleman. I am the host of the Perfection Rejection show, How to Finally Overcome Your Perfectionism and Get Shit Done. And I am here today with Trudi Pavlovsky. Trudi was at the pinnacle of her retail career, having worked her way to the top. And after getting there, she realized she didn't like the view and started creating a new direction. Trudi Sparkles Pavlovsky is a quirky, creative woman on a mission to support everyday people to share their message and skills and to do it in a way that is genuine, connected, and unique. Having had her own run with an inner critic over the years, she found a way to learn to love the impostor inside her head. And now she shows women across the globe who they can stop fighting themselves. I think that's should be how
they can stop fighting themselves. Sorry,
grow in confidence and live a life that they love. So hi, Trudi. Thank you so much.
Hi, Sharon. I'm so excited to be here.
I am too, because throughout this entire show, we have been talking about imposter syndrome and perfectionism and all of these things that hold us back. And you tell us to just go ahead and embrace these things. So I'd love to talk about this from a perspective of loving that thing that we've all kind of, over the past few weeks of watching us, have been like, oh, this is bad, 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 bad. I want to find a way to find the good. So tell me more about that.
Well, I take a little bit of a different approach to a lot of things because I spent so much of my time, I've probably spent a good 20 years fighting myself. And I'm sure that the listeners are going to be able to understand. We're told that everything is a fight. You've got to fight the imposter voice. You've got to ditch the inner critic. You've got to battle, and it's all hard work. Now, I used to do the hard work and the hard yards around it, and then I got to a point this year where I'm like, what if it could just be easy? And what if I decided to recognize what that voice was actually attempting to do for me, even though it wasn't serving me? And what if I just, decided to just love that voice and work with it and just remove all of the resistance? And it was a massive, massive shift for me. And it's been a huge shift for my clients as well.
So how do you do that? How do you?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Okay, well, first of all, we're told that it's this big psychological issue that we have, and we're like, it's all hard work, and it's just like, some people say it's psychological, some people say it's nurture and environmental, whatever it is, I actually don't care anymore. It's like you've got this voice in your head. You are with you 24 hours a day. So it starts with a decision. You get to decide, do I want to sit over here in the swamp feeling the weight of it, or do I want to start saying thank you to this voice? Because sometimes when it's telling us we can't do this, we can't do that, we're not worth it, we're not this, what it is, it's tapped back into our hindbrain, and it's tapped back into the freeze, fight and flight syndrome of back from the caveman days, right? So when you understand how your brain and your physiology and everything is working with the voice in your head, you can go, right. So if this voice is actually attempting to protect you, if this voice, which some people call the ego, has another reason for showing up, and if you can be grateful for that voice, acknowledge it, love it, and then go, I've had a look at this, I'm actually safe to take this action, I'm actually not in danger, and you can go, the worst thing that'll happen is something won't work. Then you can actually start to mitigate that voice and start going, is this actually really in my best interest? And I know that with the imposter voice, it's this ongoing, I'm not good enough, my results aren't enough, I'm not worthy. But it starts with a simple flip of the language, because I love language. Linguistics are just, they're my jam. It's like if you're saying, I didn't deserve this, it's like, well, what would it mean if you did deserve this? What would change for you if you had done the work and you did deserve this? And you start shifting your perception around, well, what if I am actually worthy of this result? What would that feel like? And I love using a lot of curiosity with imposter syndrome and making it really playful and fun, because the older we get, the harder everything gets. Everything's got a consequence bias wrapped around it now, and everything's got to be assessed and risk mitigated and this and that. And it's like, what if we just turn this into something that's fun?
I often think that we,
why not?
As a culture, at least in America, as a culture, people take things far too seriously. We take ourselves too seriously. We take the world around us too seriously.
But that's actually a neural patterning, a neural thing that develops in us. Like, it's actually how we're teaching our brain. Once we hit our 30s, mid-30s, everything starts to have risk and consequence attached to it. And if you're myelinating a neural pathway in your brain that's always assessing the risk and the danger and, you know, the worth and have I done enough and am I good enough, you're going to make that your instant go-to thought. And that's where, like, you look at millennials, they're all about just having fun. They've got it right. Do you think millennials have imposter syndrome?
No, but I'm sure they have their own voices that'll become.
Oh, they'll have their own stuff
down the road.
but I think there's some really good lessons we can get from there. And it's just like, so if you're saying to yourself, you're not good enough. So here's me, I'm sitting here going, I'm not good enough. I didn't deserve this. And it's like, well, actually, you got given the job to do. You got given the opportunity. You did the work. So where in your life have you decided that you're not good enough and you're not worthy? Because if we're basing everything on past experience, past belief, and not basing it on the now, we're not giving ourselves a chance to actually have a good, fun, and happy and enjoyable life.
Right.
And that's, the past is the past. I don't have a time machine. I can't go in and change the past. I can't change how other people behaved. I can't change how they reacted to me. All I can do is go, all right, well, now I choose in this moment to be a good human. What can I say differently to myself? And a really, really good thing is, would you say that to your best friend? I catch myself a lot because some of the things I used to say to myself, there is no way in heck that I would say that to anyone else. So why do I say it to myself?
Right.
So it's really just starting to catch yourself and it's starting to laugh at yourself. We stop laughing. The older we get, we stop laughing. We stop being playful. We stop having fun. It's like, I still catch myself saying things. And then I just go, oh, Trudi, seriously. And I just laugh at myself and move on. But I've made a conscious decision to do that.
Right.
Because I don't want my inner critic to take over my life. I spent way too many years being miserable.
I had I wish I could remember the name of the book and I can't, but it recommended that you take your inner critic and whether you're an artist or not, you draw like a cartoon of this inner critic and make it look as comical as you can. It's sort of like that Harry Potter, as soon as you make it comical and laugh at it, it's not scary anymore.
Yeah,
it was a really, really effective exercise for me to do that. I was like, oh, and then I realized that inner critic actually had a face of someone from my past when I did this.
Right.
And I was literally, I'm like, oh, you're my inner critic. I remember you. You were a real boy, right?
Yeah, you were that person in high school or that teacher or that memory of something my mum said thoughtlessly or my dad or something, and you've just embodied the whole thing. It's
so
like, let that puppy go.
You do, and I think doing that exercise, it was super useful it really reveals that no, this voice that was in me was actually somebody else's voice because it had somebody else's face, somebody who I knew and recognized as soon as I started drawing it. It was very, very useful.
How powerful.
Yeah, it was. So tell me more about embracing this, and making this rather than something we're trying to get past, something I don't know that we're maybe cooperative with.
Yep. All right. So I work in different levels, and I find there's a lot of people that will pick sort of one thing to work with around this, and they don't get it every sort of space. So this is why I can have so much fun now in my life and in my business. So I think it's really important to understand your neurology and your nervous system and how your actual physical body is working with the imposter voice. So we all have a sort of a set point that we operate from emotionally. And if we're just constantly working on building up that set point with our positive self-talk, that's a really good place to start. I also like to look at the values and beliefs that we've got wrapped around the things that we're saying to ourselves, so we get more into that mental sort of stuff and the emotional. And I don't believe we need to go back and pull apart our past and every single thing and look for all of the things that cause the imposter voice to start. If we've got it, we've got it. All right. So what do we believe about ourselves in the moment? What values have we wrapped around it? And then we can start to consciously choose differently. And then looking at the emotion that comes up, because I know that imposter syndrome for some people, I'm being very light and fun about it, but I know that it can be really, really crippling. I've experienced it at a very low point in my life as well. But being aware of those emotions that come up, and what a lot of people do, they hang on to it and they hold on to it, and they don't give their body a chance to release the emotion. So if you need to cry, cry. If you need to vent, if you need to yell, do it. Don't hang on to it, and don't make that a part of your cellular body. You know, just get it out and talk to someone about it. Like, and just say, hey, I'm feeling like this. Can you help me move past it? So whether it's, you know, getting someone to just reassure you, support you, or whatever. But then I also like to look at that spiritual level as well. So if there's anyone here who doesn't have a spiritual practice, but look at spiritual law, because energetically we are all sending out a frequency. Our cells are vibrating. And if we're sitting in this space of like, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I feel guilty, I feel shame, we're at what's called a low vibration. Our cells are sending out this low vibrational energy, and we attract that back. So working on raising your physical cellular set point, your mental and emotional self-talk, and your spiritual and energetic vibration, all of that works together to really help you fast track and move out of imposter syndrome. Because if you're living your best life and you're having fun every day, and you're developing your ability to trust your own inner dialogue, and I do a lot of work with shadow values as well, and you're removing the shame and the fear and the guilt and the judgment out of what you truly desire in your life, the imposter voice, it just fades away. It really does. Like in the last 12 months, I completely transformed my life. I live and breathe this now. And so you can do it, because I used to be crippled by it. And this is why I'm so passionate about it. And I'm so excited you let me come on your summit, because, you know, I've been the person who's sitting at their desk in their corporate job, who's like dying inside, is working 60 hours, 70 hours a week, and still feels like a fraud. I got to a national role in my retail career, and I felt like I was an absolute fraud the whole way to the top. So I sabotaged it, got made redundant, got another job at a state level, sabotaged that, got made redundant, and then just had to walk away. So I don't want people to lose what they love and what they've worked for because of this persistent internal dialogue, because it doesn't need to be there.
Yeah, or lose opportunities too. I know years ago I was offered a position with a huge, very famous website to revamp their whole back end. And they literally said to me, you know, I had applied for customer support. This is where I thought I was at. And they literally said to me, we want to hire you, create the job you want, tell us how much you want. That's what they said to me. And I never called them back because I was like, that's not who I am.
Yep.
But they wanted me. This was 7 interviews in. They said, you know what? We don't want you for this job. We want you to create your own. And I never called them back. I mean, talk about a missed opportunity, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah. And we don't want that anymore. Like we are all born intrinsically worthy. And unfortunately life throws things at us, and that if we're not nurtured and supported the right way, we take it on board that it's our fault, we blame, we justify, we do all of these things, and we set ourselves up in this space because that's what society has conditioned us to believe. Like, we're not allowed to be proud of who we are. We're not allowed to go, hey, I'm awesome, look at me over here, because there's so much fear and judgment out there.
Well,
but imagine that you could, the freedom, the flexibility to just shine.
I think there's societally, at least in all the societies I've lived in, which is the US and England, it's very much frowned upon to toot your own horn. It's like you're being conceited.
We have tall poppy syndrome in Australia. You get too big, you get cut down.
Yeah, you're too big for your own britches, you're being conceited, and all of those things.
Yeah. But you know what? Imagine if we all just loved ourselves and we all felt really good about what we were doing. If everybody felt good, no one would need to cut anyone down.
So you mentioned, I'm totally changing the topic on you, but you mentioned that you do work with shadow values, and I am not familiar with that. Can you tell me what that is?
Okay, shadow values are the values that pretty much everyone I've worked with craves or desires, but we've taught to be ashamed about. So we're not allowed to seek attention. We're not allowed to enjoy being in control. Being an authority feels bad. Superiority is bad. Validation is all external. You're not allowed to internally validate yourself. Money, sexuality, ambition. I think there's a few more I can't remember. But, when we take these values that we secretly crave, remove all the shame, fear, guilt, and judgment, remove the inner critic voice, take away the imposter syndrome, these values are the values that will actually internally inspire us to take action on our goals. So I love attention, right? Because I'm here on a summit, obviously. So if I'm setting a goal, I'll ask myself, so in how many ways can this goal get me attention? Then I'm internally inspired to take the action, and I don't need anyone to externally motivate me. So these shadow values, they sound a bit witchy and magical, but it's very, it's values work. So that's another way to fully embody who you are, and another way to, quieten the inner critic, because you're fully authentic and owning every part of who you are.
Right. And there is no shame in any of those things, really. I mean, intrinsically unto itself, there's no shame in it. The shame is all what we put on it.
But yeah, as humans, we've attached all of these negative emotions around it.
Yeah. Now I'm going to have to look into shadow work some more. I like the idea of that a lot. I
can always help you out with stuff. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'd love any info you can send me on that. I'd be really fascinated by it. So Trudi, do you have any other nuggets of wisdom to share with our audience?
I think one of the biggest things, because my backstory is huge mental health issues, a lot of depression. I've lost so much. I'm 45 now. I've lost so much of my life because of inner critic and, just not being kind to myself. But it starts with you making the decision that if you are in this space, you got to make the decision to say, no, I don't want this anymore. I want to feel good again. I want to feel happy. I do want to change my life. It starts with a decision. And then, I've given you some tips. I've got a free gift for you all as well.
Just tell us about your free gift.
Oh, well, I ran a live 10-day challenge called Ditch the Imposter Voice. And I take you through everything that I've talked about in this interview and a few other things as well. And it's a mini course now, so over 10 modules. I'll show you how I have ditched the imposter syndrome, learned to make the inner voice my own best friend, further embodied shadow values, and completely changed my life.
Well, and so you're giving access to this course to one person, to a group?
Oh, so whoever's watching the summit, it's a $97 course. Because you're here, it's my gift to you, because I really want to see imposter syndrome wiped out of the ballpark, just gone.
And then you'll have to find a new job.
Sorry?
Then you'll have to find a new job.
Oh, well, you know, there's always, I'll just do more shadow values work. There's always something for me to do.
There's always more where that came from. So thank you so much for being with us tonight or tomorrow morning. It's tomorrow morning for Trudi. It's tonight for me.
Yeah, Friday morning in Australia as we speak.
Yes. So thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. And I look forward to seeing everyone change their lives.